Okay, Madam City Clerk, do we have any postponements?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Great, so we are on to oral communications. So we will go for 1 hour, and then the rest of them will, if there's still more after that, those will be at the end of the meeting. Okay, you each get 3 minutes. First, we have AJ, followed by Yu Zhang, followed by Jennifer Griffin. Welcome, AJ.
Hello, my name is AJ Jayaraman, and I'm a student at Cupertino High School. On behalf of the Cupertino Climate Action Team and other concerned youth, I'm here to express the urgency of a divestment from fossil fuels by the city of Cupertino for a smarter and more sustainable future. Fossil fuel divestment is the shift of funds and investments out of the fossil fuel sector by the city. And there are many reasons why Cupertino should divest from fossil fuels. First off, fossil fuel divestment is an important moral decision. Fossil fuel companies have been one of the biggest funders of climate change denial since 1977. Exxon, one of the largest fossil fuel companies in the United States, was aware of climate change since 1977 and completely ignored their own scientists' reports on the dangers of climate change. Now in 2019, through their actions in the past decades, fossil fuel companies have contributed to poor climate policies, which could lead to temperatures 3.1 to 3.7 Celsius larger than pre-industrial temperatures. And the threshold for potentially catastrophic consequences is just 2 Celsius. In addition, fossil fuel divestment is a smart choice economically. The fossil fuel industry is beginning to decline, as shown in 2015, when fossil fuel divestment began to be, and still is, one of the fastest growing divestment movements. We already see the prevalence of fossil fuel divestments through the Bay Area. Cities like Mountain View, Richmond, Oakland, and Berkeley have already done this, and universities such as Stanford, San Francisco State, and the Foothill De Anza Community College District have already divested from fossil fuels. It's our turn to take the lead. As one of the leading parts of the world in technology and change, we simply cannot sit back and watch. We must take action and become a leader and take up a role in leading fossil fuel divestment. And so we ask you, the Cupertino City Council, to include fossil fuel divestment in a future city council meeting agenda, or refer it to the appropriate commission. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Okay, thank you. Next we have Yu Zhang, followed by Jennifer Griffin, followed by Jean Bedord. Welcome, Yu Zhang. Okay, Yu Zhang, and it's in parentheses it says L, E-L-L-E. Not here. Okay. All right, please be ready to come speak. Jennifer Griffin, followed by Jean Bedord, followed by Rhoda Fry. Welcome, Jennifer.
Good evening, City Council. It's always interesting to hear all the different items that have come up in your study sessions. So during oral communications, I wanted to talk about something that I'm calling future planning. It is becoming apparent with the advent of all the housing bills and the granny unit bills that there is not a lot of thought of the impact of these bills on the cities, particularly 330. I was reading that again. This is the housing emergency bill from Berkeley. It's like not even, it's like suspending every environmental law. It's not doing adequate planning that cities need to do. And you can't just start building things in California without thinking about what's going to happen. We had an earthquake yesterday that was felt in San Jose, a I believe it was a 3.5. We had 2 earthquakes this afternoon in Black Hawk. They were felt in Berkeley, they were felt in Oakland, and it was a 4.5 and a 3.4 within half an hour this afternoon. So you can't just blindly go along and all of a sudden, because you have tons and tons of housing bills, you just start eliminating all planning and environmental CEQA law. It doesn't work that way. So if this is not going to be done by the powers that be that are either invoking or signing into law these housing bills, the cities are going to need to do it. We're the ones that are going to be living with it. And this means that we have to study the impacts that all the housing bills and the ADU bills are going to have on the city and the community infrastructures, the city services. Will there be adequate or inadequate shopping or retail opportunities? If we have 3 billion more housing units and people in our city, are we going to have adequate grocery stores, gas stations? What happens to the impact on the hospitals, the effect on streets, parking, sewers, schools, parks, recreational opportunities, overloading of city amenities? The parks are going to be used by all these people. We're trying hard to get another park for the East Side. It's taken 15 years. SB 35, SB 50, in whatever weird incarnation it will be as a monster bill that's been rewritten, and 330, which is probably the most horrendous of all of them. It is, again, the cities that are having to protect themselves. I really think, I'm calling it aggressive future planning. We need to start.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer.
It begins in Cupertino, and maybe we'll be teaching this in our overloaded universities. Thank you.
Okay, Jean Bedord, followed by Rhoda Fry, followed by Charlene Lee. Welcome, Jean.
Hi, my name is Jean Bedord, and I live here in Cupertino. I'm inquiring about something in the city newsletter, items of interest. Specifically, a public hearing regarding Valco, which is tentatively listed for August 13th. And this is the print copy of the items of interest that I printed out and found that item. I want to know what this is all about. Apparently, it's disappeared from the city website. Now, according to the website, regular council meetings are scheduled for August 6th and August 20th. No meeting is scheduled for August 13th. Now, the Valco hearing is very important, and it should be part of a regularly scheduled meeting, not shoehorned into a special meeting stuck between 2 regular meetings. In addition, the earliest this should be considered would be September, when residents are back in town and engaged. Should not be shoehorned into August. Could you please explain what's going on? Thank you.
Thank you. No. Next is Rhoda Fry, followed by Charlene Lee, followed by Lisa Warren. Welcome, Rhoda.
Hi, I'm Rhoda. I'm here representing myself, and I also want to say I am in favor of the GIS stuff. I think it's great. Of course, I have a bee in my bonnet about the incorrect trees being planted that a lot of residents weren't happy about, and then of course they died. Anyway, the other thing I'm here for, if you could make the overhead work, please. I wanted to thank the city manager's office and the city council for sending a letter to the county to object to some of the aspects of the plan for Lehigh's expansion. Some of the highlights are that the application includes a drastic departure from the quarry's existing plan. It also mentioned the enormous increase in truck traffic. I counted over 2,000 trucks per day in the Stevens Creek Canyon and foothill areas, 666 for the importing of materials to Lehigh, plus the 1,300 already permitted per day for Stevens Creek Quarry. And then you've got filling the Stevens Creek Quarry, which is not included in the current counts, and also the intent of Lehigh to open a new aggregate plant. So there was the traffic. And then, of course, there's our scenic ridge easement. So we actually, the Santa Clara residents, county residents, own the view. That's the view that we see of the hill at Rancho San Antonio. If you drive down El Camino Real, if you're on Foothill, we own that view, and that we've owned it since 1972. And Lehigh wants to lop off the top of the ridge and about over half a mile of it, and this letter points that out. And in addition, just think about it, for their quarrying plans, they intend to use over 1,100 tons of explosives per year to blow up our mountains. So that's the letter. That's really cool. Now on to current stuff. This is Sunday night, so we had another air event, sent that off to BACMed. And we call BACMed a lot and say we've had these events, and usually they're not considered to be violations. I don't know why. And just to show you how much Lehigh is a polluter in the state of California, these are non-vehicular source fees that are paid to the California Air Resources Board. So for the pleasure of polluting, you pay fees, and then they figure out, okay, well, chromium's going to cost you $20.12 a pound, and carbon monoxide is a bargain at $4 and change, et cetera. So Lehigh pays over $750,000 a year. They're number 3 payer in the state of California. Finally, just wanted to mention that there is a current notice of violation about a mountain of mining waste that is marching toward Permanente Creek and depositing sediment in the creek. There have been notices of violation both from the county and from the water boards. This is an image from the water boards. You can see that this artificial hillside is breaking up. Some of these fissures are over 20 feet deep. And of course, Lehigh intends to add 160 feet of fill material on top of these already what appear to be unstable hillsides. So thank you for your vigilance on the Lehigh issues and making sure that any of the issues that impact residents are mitigated. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Charlene Lee, followed by Lisa Warren, followed by Connie Cunningham. Welcome, Charlene. Charlene here? Okay. Lisa Warren, followed by Connie Cunningham. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. So, good things happening. I'd like to acknowledge that I think it's a great idea, and I appreciate the added columns in the listed items on city council meetings. I didn't go to look to see if the same was true with planning commission or any other boards, but thank you for doing that. And I'm also happy to see the discussion about doing something about our very pale minutes and getting more comprehensive information to the public. So thank you again for that. Headed in the right direction for sure. I didn't realize the trees at Blackberry Farm were not making it or had not made it, but I have noticed recently around the city, aside from Valco, where we know we have a huge problem, there's some other city trees that have died. And I know staff is on it now, but I think it being mentioned that species may not be selected properly could be part of it. And I have recently been contacted by another resident who I haven't met in person yet and had a lengthy discussion, but that resident is very concerned about trees in the city, and I believe the list of trees is one of the concerns. And I have personally had a problem with that, just with R1. There's some trees on the list for R1 privacy that don't make any sense at all, and I think those need to be revisited. I believe it was the city arborist, maybe with some other help, that came up with that list years ago, but there's trees that they're not appropriate for your standard residential lot to be a privacy tree. And I'm happy to talk to staff about that. I've talked to people that were on staff that are no longer. Anyway, and I'd also like to say thank you to Jennifer for bringing up what she brought up about the planning ahead for the onslaught coming from Sacramento. Any of them coming will create a problem. If they all come to fruition, then we're in deep, deep trouble. Anything that we can do to prepare for that, and I know that we're going to end up saying our hands are tied, But maybe not. Maybe there's some proactive things that can be done, and chatting with other cities in the same mindset may be helpful if that's not already being done, which it may very well be. For one, ADUs and the way the city is considering handling ADUs is of concern to me and other residents. I want to be assured that there's a big picture for ADUs and other developments and it being considered. And I'm not comfortable with some of the things that the city is currently talking about with ADUs. And I don't know if I missed an opportunity to speak, but in public.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you, Mayor.
You'll have an opportunity for ADUs when that comes up, okay?
Prior to the 3-minute limit.
Connie Cunningham, followed by Anjali Kauser, followed by Scott Fittinghoff. Welcome, Connie.
Good evening again, Mayor and council members, Vice Mayor, City Manager, and City Attorney, and City Clerk. My name is Connie Cunningham, resident of Cupertino, and I'm speaking tonight in favor of the Regnart Creek pedestrian and bicycle trail. I'm wearing 3 hats tonight. I'm an older bike rider, I'm a pedestrian, and I drive cars, a car. I urge the council to support this off-street trail. It will provide a safe path for older bicyclists, a nice recreational path for pedestrians, and a safe route to school for over 200 children. It will provide cleaner air by removing cars from the road. Alternate paths on Lamar Drive or Rodriguez Avenue are not acceptable in my opinion. Lamar Drive has a permanent lighted radar speed sign because of speeding specifically. Rodriguez is a 30-mile-per-hour street. Intersections are even more dangerous. I have heard many drivers complain about bicyclists and how dangerous they are. Providing a safe route for all bicyclists, especially less trained ones, such as older residents and children, would be a good way to reduce that conflict among bicycles, pedestrians, and cars. Please remember that although both drivers and bicyclists complain, each one about the other, in a collision between the two, the driver always wins. It has been reported that bicycle and pedestrian deaths are increasing in our county. Please, 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 build this off-street recreational trail for bicyclists and pedestrians. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Connie. Anjali Kauser, followed by Scott Fittinghoff, followed by Ashok Natesan. Welcome, Anjali.
Good evening, Mayor and council members, City Manager. I'm Anjali Kauser. I'm the CEO for the Cupertino Chamber of Commerce, and I wanted to come out here and invite you on behalf of the Chamber Board to come and attend our first Cupertino Night Market happening on July 27th at the Cupertino Senior Center parking lot from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. And we are collaborating with the city, the Parks and Rec Department, and Shakespeare in the Park. So we are hoping that you will be able to come and be part of this great inaugural event. And we are bringing something that's really big in Taiwan, and we're really going to be like a baby night market, but we are hoping that you can join in the celebrations and hope to see you there. Thank you.
Great, thank you for being succinct, and I hope that our night market ends up as big as the ones in Taiwan soon.
Thank you.
Scott Fittinghoff, followed by Ashok, followed by Wolfe Llewellyn. Welcome, Scott.
Me too. I hope the night market is big like Sulang, Taiwan. I'm Scott Fittinghoff. I live at 6790 John Drive. I'm just going to be really short. I'm in support of the trail project, Regnart Creek Trail. I'm urging the council to support the trail. Speaking with people that oppose the trail, they express safety concerns for themselves. I encourage the city staff and the designers to work with those people to make sure the design comes through as being safe for everybody. We don't want to provide an avenue for robbers. I don't think it will, personally. The sheriff doesn't think it will, but I think that that should really be sent to the staff to work on that. In summary, there's over 1,500 signatures now supporting the trail project. The previous council supported the trail project. I encourage you to support the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ashok Natsan, followed by Wolfe Llewellyn, followed by, wait, do I have two for, I have two for Scott Fiddinghoff. So, yeah, you only get to speak once. Okay. So it'll be Ashok after, and I have two for Ashok as well. I'm not sure why. Okay.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to speak before the council. My name is Ashok Natesan, and I'm here to speak in support of the Regnard Creek Trail. I've been a resident of Cupertino since 1995, and my kids went through Regnard, Kennedy, and Monte Vista. I've also been a biker and a bike commuter for almost 15 years now, averaging 15, 20 miles round trip. And specifically, since we're talking about trails, I have a lot of experience like commuting on Stevens Creek Trail, which I would like to use as an example. It's very heavily used. And so I'm giving you these perspectives as somebody who's actually been on the trail 4 days a week. Contrary to a lot of concerns I hear about safety, litter, noise, etc., in my experience, at least from the Stevens Creek Trail, these trails absolutely foster a real sense of community and, I believe, increase safety. For homeowners, I actually think that these trails, a trail running behind your house makes it safer, not less safe, because to some extent, every trail user is an extension of your community watch. And more users, there are fewer loiters. Also, the other thing is both the homeowners and the trail users, in my experience, really become a community which looks out for each other. I've actually been helped by homeowners. Once my bike, I had a problem, a homeowner basically invited me to park the bike over so I could come the following day. And in fact, he was even nice enough to give me a ride to my work since I couldn't commute. I've helped numerous bikers with flat tires, mechanical problems, and I've been helped myself. So there is really a community. This is not just a bunch of guys going off and doing something. And then it absolutely cuts traffic and car emissions. Speaking of traffic, since I live in the Regnard area, traffic is terrible. It's around schools. And in October, I actually did an informal poll, not scientific, but meaningful nevertheless, on Nextdoor, where I polled everybody in Cupertino and Saratoga, and I got a decent number of responses. Poll one was, my poll was directed to people who drove every day. First question was, how far away from school do you live? And I was very surprised to see 51% lived within 15 miles, 15 minutes walk. Then the second one was, why do you drive rather than walk? And 47% cited that they felt that the walking conditions were unsafe. So just think about it. If you could just convince all these people that they could walk safely, you're talking about at least school traffic, 50% reduction in cars, which I think would be awesome. So with the Regnard Trail, I think we in Cupertino have an opportunity to do something really tangible to improve the safety of kids, walkers, bikers. And the Regnard Creek Trail is a vital part of this broader trail system that the city has an opportunity to develop. We can pretty much have a protected path all the way from McClellan Park to Main Street. This would be really a fantastic addition to the broader Cupertino community, to our kids, and will get more folks walking and biking. I would strongly urge the council to move forward with the Regnard Creek Trail. It would make a huge difference to the city of
Okay,
Cupertino.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Wolfe Llewellyn, and that's the last card I have, unless I missed anybody. There were several duplicates here. Welcome, Will.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I remember Ashok's poll, actually. I remember taking that, and I had a pretty good response to it that kind of ties into this. So I'm a resident here. My son is starting first grade at Stevens Creek Elementary in next month. And so this graphic, I'm going to borrow this from our friends at Walk by Cupertino, and it essentially shows my neighborhood. Like, this is where I live. And so it's a really cool neighborhood. We have about 5 different parks, all within kind of walking, biking area. I tend to go up and down Foothill a lot. And as Rhoda has mentioned and others, there's a lot of traffic there, especially big trucks. And so when you're trying to teach your son how to responsibly navigate the streets, it's a little iffy when you're pulling them behind on a little tag-along bike and you got these large semis rattling by you and scaring you. So I'm not going to mention any names on these projects, but we really have some opportunities here to create a nice greenway within our city, like a really cool project, a lot of different projects that can link up and to make this really nice circle, essentially. And I like the term greenway. I think that's a pretty good one. And so I went to the Water District about a month ago, and they put up this really great map of the whole Bay Area. So you picture our U, and it's just so many trails, just miles and miles of trails that, wouldn't it be amazing to say, hey, 1 week we could say, let's get on a bike and go all the way around the whole Bay Area on interconnected trails and not necessarily have to fight traffic while doing that. I think it's a nice vision. I think it's something we could possibly pull off. We're trying to mitigate climate change and get cars off of the streets and stuff like that. And so more multi-use trails, I think, will help that, certainly. But just back to the kids, you know, I've been doing this community leading thing the last couple of years and just trying to get families comfortable with knocking on your neighbor's door. Like, we grew up and I was able to go to my friend's house a couple blocks away and have dinner and just hang out. Now it's like you got to get on your phone and you got to calendar play dates. You can't just organically hang out with your neighbors anymore. And here in Cupertino, it's a small suburb. You know, we are ideal small town America with a huge, innovative ecosystem around us and everything, but we can still live up to small town values here, right in Cupertino. And so having all these wonderful green spaces and places where you can walk with your kids and get off your gadget, right? Get your kid off your gadget. You know, we're all fighting the whole remapping and everything of how they get connected early. So let's give our kids the opportunity to get outside.
Okay, thank you, Will. Was there anyone else I missed that wanted to speak during oral? If not, we will move on. Oh, sorry, I don't have a card from you. Did you fill out a card?
I just filled out the card.
Okay, welcome Alongo. Oh, a couple of more coming. Okay.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Ilango Ganga. I'm speaking for myself. So I'm going to talk about Ragnark Creek Trail. I've already reviewed the 65% plans, and I wrote to the council about the issues and concerns that are still not addressed in the 65% plan. So today I am just going to talk about one of the issues, like the privacy, security, and noise. There are many issues there, but this is one thing I'm going to talk about today because of the limits of the 3-minute limit here. So you can divide the trail into multiple different segments. I'll talk first about Lamar Drive. This is the picture just behind the Lamar Drive. This is one of the narrowest sections of the trail where the trail goes. I can see the markings over here, like it's like 2 feet, or with the tread markings are even less than 2 feet in there, and it's backed by the fences of the private property owners. And I don't see that the city has resolved this issue of the privacy in here behind these homes. There's no mitigation for privacy, there's no mitigation for noise. It's basically they're backed up by their own fences, and the city is offering optionally for some homes that, okay, they might replace the fences, but that's not the right thing to do. So the second thing I wanted to bring up is the Lamar Drive and De Palma Lane. That's the second segment, which is most difficult segment here as well. Because of De Palma, there are different issues, and in front of Lozano Lane, there are different issues as well, and right here in this section of the trail. And trail is going in front of the homes. The water district doesn't allow any permanent structures. So some of the feasibility study options that were shown for providing privacy cannot be provided. And the only option that the city is offering now is plastic planters, replaceable plastic planters. That's not good. So this issue has not been resolved at the 65% design. The next one is actually behind the homes behind Rodriguez Avenue. There, where the trail is actually running at a higher grade compared to the homes, which are at a much lower grade. A person actually walking on the trail can directly peep into the kitchen windows and things like that. Sometime back, our Public Works Director mentioned in one of the community meetings that there is a possibility to do a land swap with the water district where you can have some vegetation to provide privacy. I don't think that's been addressed in the 65% review, and I do not know what the status of that land swap discussions with the water district. The next one is actually behind the Farallone Drive, and here again, the grading of the trail is higher as compared to the homes, and where people walking on the trail can be directly facing the facing the bedrooms of the homes and the backyards. And so this issue has not been addressed as well. So before bringing back to the council, I would really request the city to complete all the issues before bringing the issue back to the council for discussion. And the last point I want to say is the cost. The cost, actually, I don't have time to go through each one of these. You can look at it later. The cost will be zooming up to $6 million in here if you are to provide that too. There's not addressing all the issues which I'm talking about. Some of the issues that if you add all of those things, it will go $6 million. And I would like to really counsel to see whether is this the worth spending $6 million on this particular trail. And that's something that, if you want to be physically responsible here and develop alternative facilities, that will be a fraction of the cost and will still solve the problems that the citizens are raising.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Genevieve Kolar, followed by Rahul Vasant. Welcome, Genevieve.
Hi, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. I really appreciate your time. My name is Genevieve Kolar. I am the student representative for De Anza College on the Foothill De Anza Board of Trustees. And I'm here not on behalf of the board, but on behalf of the student body. So this weekend we hosted a youth climate summit at De Anza, and we had over 200 students in attendance, and we also had several elected officials, including Councilmember Rod Sinks, which I really appreciate. And basically on behalf of students, I'd like to echo the sentiment of our high school peers who are really leading the charge. Foothill De Anza has already divested from fossil fuels, and we'd love to encourage Cupertino to consider doing the same, because it really is the future, it's our future, and it's common sense at this point to divest from environmental destruction. Thank you.
Thank you. Last we have Rahul Vasant. Welcome, Rahul.
I'll be brief. Good evening, everyone. Something that came to mind over this discussion over bike trails is a matter of equity when it comes to funding allocation and specifically transit. As you know, we live in a region with a much higher proportion of individuals with disabilities of all forms. I personally think for a number of different reasons, suburbs like ours, particularly those designed for car and automobile transit, are in a unique position to better address the needs of this community. And funding that is granted specifically for a bike trail is money that realistically is not going to be used by someone with mobility-specific related disability. And that also being said, it should be taken into account that fewer individuals with disability are really able to make it to the community hall here to make public comments. They're less likely to send emails and contact you directly. And this is why I think we should also kind of take into consideration funding that's used on one project that explicitly is excluding particular groups perhaps should be re-examined. But at the same time, I also really do want to echo some of the comments made by one of the residents who mentioned, well, not directly, but the idea of a really walkable, bikeable city is also something to consider. So obviously, funding is a crucial aspect of it, but I just ask that we keep in mind there are a lot of people who aren't going to be walking around a lot or aren't going to be biking around specifically on these trails, and a lot of specifically solutions involving cars or usage of funding that benefits all residents can be taken into consideration as well. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. That ends the oral communications. Okay, next we're on to reports by council and staff, specifically reports on committee assignments. So, John, do you have anything?
We were scheduled for the school meeting on the 12th, but it's been postponed.
Okay, Councilmember Paul.
The Library Joint Powers Authority met on June 27th. One of the items that directly pertains to Cupertino was authorization for the county librarian to enter into an agreement with Cupertino with regard to paying for the usage of Community Hall. And so that was authorized. We had a special meeting last week here in Cupertino to talk about our side of that agreement. We've been meeting as a group for the program room expansion, and the last time we met was also on June 27th. We had discussed to go through a potential design build bid process for that. I understand that there are some state law requirements as well that we'll be looking at in our next meeting for this upcoming Thursday. So that seems to be going reasonably well for that project. And then on July 11th, we were supposed to have a VTA policy advisory committee meeting, but that got canceled. And our next meeting for that group is going to be on August 8th. Those take place on 1st Street in San Jose at, I believe it was 4 o'clock in the afternoons. And with regard to the library JPA, the next meeting is taking place on October 24th at 1:30 p.m. at their headquarters in Campbell.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Okay, I'll go next. For me, what is specifically committee assignments? We had our Legislative Review Committee on June 25th, well attended, very impressed that people turn out for that meeting. And we've been crafting our positions on the various state bills, as well as discussing local things that we may want to do in the future. And we can certainly put the fossil fuel issue onto our agenda. I also met, not really a committee assignment, but the West Valley Mayor's meeting on June 26th. We had police chiefs from Los Gatos, Campbell, what's the third one? I forgot. And as well as our sheriff's captain, Captain Urena, spoke at this meeting. Good conversation. Maybe perhaps I'll write up a report, put it on the website. It's too long to go into all of that right here. Also, Environmental Review Committee. We appointed a new chair from the Planning Commission, Kitty Moore, and we are hoping to really revitalize that committee and have a better work plan for that committee very soon. That's all I have. Next, Vice Mayor Chow.
So I also attended the Legislative Review Committee, and Mayor has reported on that. Another, not committee assignment, but I attended the SV at Home Council Roundtable about ADUs, and Senator Wikowski reported his bill on ADU. There are some elements I think we are concerned. We took a position on them. For example, people might be able to build, who are not homeowners, might be able to get permit for building ADU and other things. And yeah, okay.
Great, thank you. Rod?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about this at our very special meeting last week, and since this is our first regular meeting and our first chance at committee assignments, we were talking about in the context of this thing that we had to prepare for the Stevens Creek corridor. But I wanted to report more fully on this. So, you know, we had, at our June meeting, had a good discussion among the council on the principles that we were looking for in the 85 corridor. And so we crafted a letter, and that turned out to be a great thing that got well circulated, and we got support. I got support from two key representatives, Mountain View's representative to the 85 Policy Advisory Board, as well as Los Altos. And those two happened to sit on the VTA board and MTC respectively. The particular things that they would support were a dedicated transit lane, not for cars, but for high occupancy vehicles, meaning like vans and buses, with few stops, including 85 at Stevens Creek and then Evelyn at Mountain View, some access to the Caltrain station. The other thing that seemed to get some real discussion was this idea that we would welcome major employers running their buses in this transit corridor, but we're looking for, basically for financing from them. We would either collect a fee from them for the privilege of running in the corridor, or we could talk about upfront money. So there was a fair discussion about public-private partnerships. So our Saratoga representative, Howard Miller, has been less forthcoming about any stops, but acknowledged that a couple of stops might be suitable. Specifically, he talked about the Mountain View one. So that's my report. We seem to be making some progress. The people that were newer on the committee were sort of floundering, but I would floundering, yeah. What is it, Darcy? I don't know.
Foundering, I think.
Thank you. But at least we seem to be beginning to unify. We specifically excluded, after conversation that's gone on a couple years, light rail. VTA staff thinks that light rail is simply not feasible economically any place in their territory, never mind that the board seems to be excited to put it to East Ridge, but that's in San Jose, and we're obviously, this doesn't go to downtown San Jose, so we took that out. But anyway, it was a good meeting, and I think we're building support toward a recommendation that we'll be making to the VTA board at the end of this year. Thank you.
Okay, is that it? Great. Okay, we are on to consent. I have one person from the public that wants to pull item 16. You want to, which one?
16.
Okay, and Vice Mayor Chow wants to pull 16, but can I have a motion for items 4 through, wow, this is huge, 4 through 20?
I'd move 4 through 20, accepting 16.
There's a member of the public indicating that if you'd like to come up to the
20?
20.
Okay, we can pull 20 as well.
Okay.
Okay.
So with the exception of 16 and 20, I would move 4 through 19 then.
Great. Okay, I'll second. Vote with your lights. All right, 16 and 20 are pulled.
Did you mean to abstain?
Why are you abstaining?
Should can we try this again?
All right, try it again.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so let's go to item 16. This is the Parks and Rec Commission fiscal year 2020 work program. Can we have the staff report? Is anyone here from Parks and Rec? Oh, welcome, Director Milks.
You thought you were free.
Good evening. One of the members of our Parks and Recreation Commission, Carol Stanek, is here as well and may wish to speak. Good evening, Jeff Melkus, Director of Parks and Recreation. The annual work plan for the commission includes a number of items, the majority of which mirror the items that you'll find for the department in the council-approved 2018-19 or actually 1920 work plan. Those items, I can go over them a little bit, include things like Lawrence Mitty, includes things like the master plan, the strategic plan. We'll be talking about some areas of potential controversy about fees with the use of athletic fields, about the off-leash area. There's a number of other items. The commission also wanted to kind of extend from that to kind of build some connections with other commissions. So this year's plan will include a couple of different joint meetings, one with an arts council and one with the teen commission. So if there are any questions, I think that's kind of a brief summary of the work plan.
All right, thank you. Yeah, before questions, we will do the public comment. Welcome. I have one card, Jennifer Griffin.
Good evening, City Council. I'm glad that Mr. Milks mentioned the Lawrence Mitty Park area. That was one of the items I was going to discuss. I think that it's very, very important when you're talking about Parks and Rec, we need to remember that parks are a great resource across the city. And one of the items that needs to be looked at is future parkland. And this is all the more imperative by what I had said before about the future planning, because we may be having, as Lisa said, an onslaught of new people coming into Cupertino. I mean, we don't know what's going to be happening. And we're already underparked now. That's a bad pun, but I think that there is going to be a tremendous rush on city resources, and we need to step up the effort to make sure that we have adequate parkland. And I think that we have good beginnings of parkland acquisition in all parts of the city, but it needs to be something that we're looking at actively for the future. And I know you all have tried very hard to get Lawrence Mitty. We've been trying to get that property secured since 1985 when Pat Bustamante had the first idea to have it. And we were under the county at that point. We're still working on it, and I am sure at some point it will be secured for the city. There is absolutely no other logical place that it would go. I used to believe there was the imminent threat that someone would be building housing on it, but I think we're far enough into the infrastructure that Cupertino would take primary control over it. That would not occur. It's just a matter of time for whatever happens. Also, I think that it's very important that we remember that we need to have an active plan to look for and purchase parkland in the future. And I mean, my brother's family lives in Portland, Oregon, and I was astounded to know, as Mr. Milks would know, that Portland is an old city. It's from the 1860s. I mean, the university was set up in 1865, and they have parks that go back hundreds of years. I like that. 75 to 100, more than 100 years. And when we're looking for Cupertino, we need to be looking for that future. What will we have 100 years from now? And if it means that we're purchasing property and taking down homes, that's what we need to do. We may be taking down all sorts of things, but I think that needs to be part of the active agenda, because there is going to be increased demand for our parkland.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all the public comment I have on that item, so bring it back to council. Vice Mayor, you also indicated you want to pull this, so you can speak. Which number is it? Oh, okay, fine. Okay, go.
Okay.
What?
Oh.
So he does want 16? Okay, well, we'll have you speak first then. Okay, go.
Hearing the previous public comment, I'd also like to just encourage that funds allocated specifically to parks, not only improvements, but expansions, or anything new or special or unique that's being built on top of what's already there, be applied to areas that are most popular, most heavily used by residents, whichever location. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor.
So I'd like the council approved the funding for community garden at McClellan Ranch and including potential grant program. I don't remember how much the amount for neighborhood community gardens in neighborhood parks. So I thought that should be added as an item for Parks and Rec Commission. And another thing is I believe the council also has Stevens Creek Corridor Master Plan, which might look at implementation for potential Blackberry Farm golf course. I don't know if that's something Parks and Rec Commission should weigh in on, and maybe Memorial Park.
So are the community gardens part of Parks and Rec or not?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it
They
is.
still need to design and the grant.
Okay.
The satellite community gardens funding was $300,000 of the $1.5 million, and we've been working with Public Works already to begin to identify. When we do have those opportunities identified, one of the stops on the way to come back to you will be to the Parks and Recreation Commission. When the commission considered its work plan, it was some time ago when interim director Borden was visiting each commission. At that point, once we had, or the commission had settled on the items, these are items with the golf course as well that have come up after they began working. At the next commission meeting in August, I can certainly bring it to the commission. Ultimately, the commission makes their decision, and they have voted to approve this particular work plan. As far as the Stevens Creek item, that may be a pretty good fish to fry and maybe something that we want to look at in next year's council work plan as a department and then as well on the commission.
I'd support the Vice Mayor's request that they consider that. And it seems like we're already rolling on the community garden idea, but
yes,
specifically to take a look once again at get the renewed look at the golf course. Which is, we're hemorrhaging what, $300,000+ a year out of our general fund.
Absolutely. In fact, we more than likely will be looking at that independent of the Stevens Creek master plan. We've been working with our consultants and are hoping to come back with options to council in the late part of fall, October, November timeframe.
I think it'd be appropriate for the Parks and Rec Commission to have a chance to reflect on what they'd like, what their recommendation would be. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Right, and I seem to remember talking to you at one point and you saying that we're not hemorrhaging money at the golf course. So which is true here?
Well, the loss is around $300,000, but we can account for that. There's approximately $120,000 of that is brought in but is not being accounted for to the golf course, and that's what is the Blue Pheasant rent. Generally, in most golf courses, your restaurant on site would be credited to the golf course. The $80,000 of that is from the water, but still, we are. It's about $300,000, and we'll have some options for you, and those options will include opportunities to look at investment and what those return on investments are over time and what the capital opportunities would be as well.
Okay, great.
So since we are approving the Parks and Rec work program, I think it makes more sense that we just add these items to the work program, right? Because I think the council has authority to add that. Especially community garden, I really want the Parks and Rec Commission to provide input on, because the council hadn't, I think the plan hasn't come to the council. And,
Sure.
yeah.
I suspect there won't be any concern on the part of the commission, but I can't speak for them. But in August, we'll address it. The beginning of August, first Thursday at their next meeting.
So when is the appropriate time to add this to the work plan? I mean, should we do it tonight, or do
Yeah,
you want to
because
modify the work plan in the future, or how do?
If they modify it, it has to come back to us for approval, right? That doesn't.
You could approve
it seems we
it.
should just add it.
You could approve it subject to those modifications, and then I'll take it back as the liaison to the commission.
So I would like to move this item with the addition of the two items that Vice Mayor Chow mentioned.
And the two items are community gardens.
Extending community
Right.
gardens in other parks across the city, in addition to the one that the primary one that we've always had. And secondly, to ask the Parks and Rec Commission, along with planning staff, to come to reflect on, with current data, on what we should do with the Blackberry Farm Golf Course.
Yeah, I guess a third thing I mentioned was the Memorial Park pond. Memorial Park, I mean the pond that people have been complaining it has been empty. What we should do with it? I don't remember, is that in our work program or not?
It isn't in the current work plan, as I remember. It is a CIP project to study it and create a master plan just for Memorial Park, and that is
Yeah.
a funded project.
Yeah, I think there was a study already presented to the Parks and Rec Commission. And so do they not plan on working on that this year? Because I don't see that in their work program. It was half done, right?
That will be subject to the progress that our Public Works Department as a CIP project can make, and how they can fit it into their kind of workflow. Once they start and we start working on the master plan for the park, of course, they'll play an integral role in that.
Okay, I'll second Rod's motion. Let's vote. Wonderful.
Motion
Let's-
carries unanimously.
Let's move on to item 20. That is support of the development of complete streets and transit efficiency study for Stevens Creek Boulevard corridor. Do we have any report on that?
Well, we can. This item was pulled by the public.
Right, yeah, so maybe I'll let the public speak on this item. Welcome, Jennifer.
Jennifer Q. Public. Anyway, this item, I was here when this first came up, I guess several months ago, and I'm glad, reading the staff report on this, I'm glad that a lot of the public's comment were taken into account. There's several things in here. It sounds like Cupertino is being listened to because, believe me, we have a lot of concerns. I live on, as you all know, are sick of hearing, I live at the eastern gateway of Cupertino with Santa Clara and San Jose. If you all hadn't been aware, they demolished the IHOP restaurant today or yesterday, and Santa Clara is beginning the construction of the second, I will call it, cruise ship building, or the blue building, which is the more polite name. So we're going to have another 6-story high-rise there. We're all aware of what it looks like because we got it down from 9 stories. So when we're going into discussions with Santa Clara and San Jose and VTA and some other people, I get really, really nervous because a lot of other people have had lots and lots of plans for Stevens Creek Boulevard, and I've lived in that area since 1985. I purchased my home in 1995. And it is so constrained in there now. We're already looking at the Stern Hotel, which is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 stories, we're not sure. That's stuck right in there on the corner by the 7-Eleven, across the street from the 2 blue buildings, the cruise ship buildings. And that's San Jose. Santa Clara is across the street. I really do not want fixed bus rapid transit down there. I will fight to make sure it does not go down there. A lot of other people are very concerned about it too. I believe San Jose wants that, but I'm concerned that they may be setting up a precedent that I don't know, I forgot if it was SB 50 or 35, that makes it that if you are a quarter mile from a bus stop, you can have high-density housing built in your neighborhood. I am 1/4 mile from that bus stop in front of the IHOP in Santa Clara across the street. So if we put in big bus stations along there, if San Jose has their way, are we going to be incurring the wrath of these high-density housing units? We don't know. We don't know what's happening. So also, and complete streaks make me really, really nervous. There's 3 cities there. We need to proceed cautiously. I really don't want any more drama there than we already have.
Okay, please
and
finish.
also, that I'm not sure about this 280 and Stevens Creek infrastructure, because we're right there. We need to talk about this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's bring it back here. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're explicitly excluding BRT from this discussion, or is that not true?
Actually, I think we didn't specify a mode. What we said was that it would needed to be fully grade separated, so either above or below ground, but not at grade.
Okay,
And just to be clear, that's if it were on Stevens Creek. If it were on 280,
right,
which is what I've been arguing is.
I agree with you. Okay.
It could be at grade, and it could be BRT or whatever the heck it could be.
Okay, so when we say Stevens Creek Boulevard corridor, that's including 280. Is that what you're saying? Because number 1 here.
In Cupertino.
In Cupertino, that's true.
We can't really tell San Jose and Santa Clara what to do, but in Cupertino, you know, the alternative that our subcommittee argued ought to be studied is 280, and of course, it has these attributes. It sits right at Apple Campus 2. It sits right at Apple Infinite Loop. Those 2 sites are major employment centers. If you were hitting a Valco project, you could hit it either from Stevens Creek or 280, but for those 2 major employment centers, you know, you were on 280. And then the other thing it could do is swing around to De Anza College on 85, which is, as I explained in one of our during council reports, basically the idea that we have is that we would establish a transit hub at that door there to De Anza College at Stevens Creek. So were it to be some compatible mode, it could simply take the on-ramp, get onto 280 and cruise past our major employment centers. And then, okay, the alignment in San Jose is going to be what they dictate, and they seem to strongly favor Stevens Creek Boulevard.
Okay, I mean, despite this going past Infinite Loop and Apple Park, I just wonder how many employees are commuting from downtown San Jose up to those facilities that would actually use this instead of an Apple bus. But this is just the efficiency study. This is not anything more than that.
Right. I mean, the alternative would be if you got something above grade on Stevens Creek or below grade, right? We know it's expensive, particularly to go under grade, but you could also make a great people mover there. Maybe there's some new technology that would make it less expensive, which is what Darcy's been arguing. And if you were able to get that done, that is below grade or above grade, you could eliminate all of the intersections that you have to go through with all of the timing of the expressways at San Tomas and Lawrence and all these things. De Anza, that make the bus service today so frightfully slow. It's a, it's an hour-long trip from De Anza College to San Jose by bus, or vice versa. If you're on the freeway, it's with a car, it's a 15-minute trip, and the advantage, of course, of the freeway alignment is you don't have an intersection every few blocks.
Correct.
With a light.
So this resolution's in support of continuing this conversation with neighboring
Right.
communities, and then a study would assess all various route alternatives, the pros and cons of each with respect to who it serves, when it serves them, and that would come back to council, of course.
Okay, great. Anybody else want to speak on this?
No, we've covered all the details. Yeah.
Great. So someone make a motion.
I'll move the item. I move that we adopt resolution number 19-089 to, 1, support the development of a complete streets and transit efficiency study for the Stevens Creek Boulevard corridor, and 2, support ongoing discussions regarding a high-capacity transit service in the Stevens Creek Boulevard I-280 corridor in collaboration with the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority and the cities of Santa Clara and San Jose, and 3, authorize the city manager or her designee to assess resources needed to develop these projects and report the findings to the city council.
And I'll be happy to second that.
Great. All right, vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great. Okay, we're on to item 21. Second reading of municipal code amendment to consider changing the composition of the Housing Commission to eliminate the requirement that one member be a representative from our Cupertino financial institution. So can we have well, we don't really need a staff report. This is the second reading. So
Checking cards.
would you
ready
like to
for
conduct
reading?
the second reading?
This is the second reading of ordinance number 19-2185, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cupertino amending Title II, Administration and Personnel of the Cupertino Municipal Code, Chapter 2.86, Housing Commission, to eliminate the requirement that one member be a representative from a Cupertino financial institution.
Okay. I have a motion. I'll make the motion. We have a second?
You need to read what it says.
Oh, I need to read it again. Okay.
You want me to move?
Yeah, go ahead.
I move that ordinance number 19-2185 be read by title only, and that the city clerk's reading constitute the second reading thereof.
Great.
Second.
Vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
I move that ordinance number 19-2185 be enacted.
Second.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, we are on to item 22, consider approving a new 185-room, 5-story hotel, 24-hour operations with underground parking, event meeting rooms, a restaurant with a separate bar, and rooftop lounge with a separate bar at the Cupertino Village Shopping Center by demolishing 2 commercial buildings with an area of 13,429 square feet and the removal of 41 trees. City actions would include a general plan amendment to consider increasing the development allocation of hotel rooms to 185 hotel rooms to the North Valco special area. Other permits include development, architectural and site approval, tree removal, and use permits. A development agreement is also proposed. So we have a staff report, and the applicants are here as well, I presume.
Good evening, council members. I'm Eric Serrano, presenting on the Cupertino Village Hotel, located at 10801 and 10805 North Wolfe Road. The project is for a new 185-room hotel, about 5 stories tall. At the current site, it's occupied by 2 buildings totaling 13,500 square feet. To the north of the project site is Cupertino Village Hotel. To the east, you have Apple Park and the Hamptons apartment. To the south, along Prune Ridge, you have the Hilton Garden Inn and the Arioso Apartments, which also extend to the west of the property. The proposal is a 185-room hotel on a 1.72-acre site. The project was initially analyzed as part of the general plan authorization project. The project is required to obtain a general plan amendment to increase the hotel allocation in the North Valco Parco special area in the city's general plan from 0 to 185 hotel rooms. Minus the need for the hotel allocation, the project is consistent with the city's general plan. A hotel is permitted as a conditional use in the general commercial zone. Here's some numbers for the project. The floor area of the hotel is 115,394 square feet, and there are 206 parking spaces, 8 surface, and 196 underground. So the vehicle access to the site will be provided via an existing private street driveway off of Prune Ridge Avenue here and around. The project also has a pedestrian entrance along North Wolfe Road in this area here for the restaurant, and then the kind of lobby area in the middle. The building setbacks to the rear are 89 feet and 3 inches, where 90 is typically seen. But again, this is a planned development, so it allows for a little discretion in the development standards. On the Prune Ridge side, there's an 8 and 8.5 inches setbacks along here, where none is required. And the interior, adjacent to the shopping center, an 11-foot setback is proposed with the overall development. So you have 11 feet here from the property line. There is a front setback of 60 feet, and that maintains the one-to-one building envelope that's required in our general plan there. The restaurant with a separate bar on the ground floor is located here on the first floor. I want to clear that up. Down here. There is a rooftop lounge with a separate bar here. This is a roof view. The conference rooms are along the first floor of the building along there. And the project would update the landscaping along the perimeter of the property, including updated frontage improvements to provide pedestrian accessibility. So a lot of landscaping in the front here to really activate the frontage along Wolfe, make it more pedestrian and bicycle friendly. The city has worked in conjunction with the city's consulting architect to really activate that frontage. So this is the first floor view looking kind of from the Wolfe sidewalk into the hotel. You'll see that there's a cafe in the first floor and a restaurant to the right. And it incorporates a lot of outdoor seating for the restaurant. And there's like I said, secondary pedestrian entrance as well. There's also conference room breakout areas along Wolfe. This is the view from the hotel to along the rear of the property. So there will be a total landscape area of 16,810 square feet, approximately 26% of the net lot area. Improvements along North Wolfe Road include new street furniture, bicycle racks, seat walls, and built-in seating around existing trees. The project proposes the removal and replacement of 41 trees on site. The applicant has worked with the city's arborist to ensure that the mature evergreen ash and the public right-of-way are maintained. The second row of ash trees will be removed due to health and lifespan issues, as well as construction impacts. Replacements will include oak species due to their suitability to the area and environment. The driveway between the proposed hotel and shopping center, the applicant proposes to modify to a right-in only driveway. So this is the area next to the Duke and the Cupertino Village Shopping Center right now. Staff does recommend that the closure of the driveway, the closure is more consistent with the city's general plan and is based on the recommendation of observed illegal driver behavior and to improve safety along that driveway. Closure of the driveway would result in the shifting of 15 inbound and 20 outbound trips during the PM peak hour to Prune Ridge, essentially shifting those trips down to Prune Ridge. Closure would not affect the level of service at the study intersection during both peak hours at AM and PM. Closure of the driveway would result in a more cohesive project site that allows for greater pedestrian access between the shopping center and hotel. Staff did recommend this closure of the driveway as a condition of approval. However, Planning Commission recommend that the driveway remain open, and that's reflected in the resolutions provided today. In regards to the environmental review, a draft initial study and mitigate negative declaration has been prepared. The M&D identifies mitigation measures in the following areas to reduce the potential environmental impacts to those to less than significant. So air quality, biological resources, cultural and tribal resources, temporary noise levels, and utilities. The mitigation measures have been included as conditions of approval for the project. Staff did receive comments during the notice of intent to adopt the M&D and were addressed in the ISMD. Additional comments were received after the 30-day public review and have been incorporated into the documents. However, even with the minor changes and clarifications to address the comments in the ISND, the conclusion remained that the project is less than significant effect on the environment with the proposed mitigation measures. Public comments that were received were incorporated into the responsive comment memo as well. The project is also entering into a development agreement with a community amenity funding of $1.85 million or $10,000 per room. Also includes a transportation demand management and transportation management association. In the event one is formed, there will be a commitment to pay an annual participation fee, which initially shall not exceed $10,000 per year, but may be increased annually by the Consumer Price Index, as well as a shuttle service that will be available to hotel guests and to people traveling to or from the hotel that uses the hotel's meeting rooms for functions and subject to availability for nearby residents. Meeting rooms allow the city to use the hotel's meeting rooms for official city businesses and purposes, subject to availability. There are also reduced rates. All people visiting Cupertino for official city business and dignitaries visiting for city purpose and events would have a reduced room rates by at least 10% lower than the hotel's lowest rates. There's also internships to offer non-paid educational internships to students from the Fremont High School District, De Anza College, or other colleges interested in careers in the hospitality industry. All these development agreement is also in addition to the 1.7 million net positive fiscal impact just from the hotel's operation, just as a side note. During the Planning Commission, comments or discussion topics included the development agreement, landscaping, the environmental analysis, as well as circulation and traffic. Outreach, site signage posted at least 10 days prior to hearing, legal ad placed in the newspaper, 55 public hearing notices mailed to property owners within 300 feet. The agenda was also posted on the city's official notice bulletin board and posted on the city's Cupertino's website. This is the city's outreach, but the applicant has also conducted some outreach that he'll be able to speak to. In conclusion, the Planning Commission recommends that the City Council adopt the mitigating negative declaration and adopt the resolutions for the general plan amendment, development permit, architectural site approval, tree removal permit, and the use permit, and conduct the first reading of the development agreement ordinance. That concludes my presentation. Our city attorney would like to add something.
Okay. Oh, I was going to say before we go on, I'd like any council members. I have met with the applicant outside the meeting to discuss this project, and if anyone else has met with them, they should also disclose that at this time.
I've met with the applicant also.
Same here.
The applicant requested a meeting and I took it.
Yeah.
I've met with the applicant over the years, probably 4 or 5 times.
Okay. So now, Heather, did you want to add something, or was that it?
Mayor and council members, I just wanted to let you know that the recommended action, we have presented minor amendments to 4 of the resolutions that were considered by the Planning Commission, the development permit, architectural and site application, tree removal and use permit, to clarify that the effectiveness of those resolutions are conditioned on the effectiveness of the general plan amendment for the project. We also have just 2 corrections to the development agreement to delete from recital F.
Do we have this in writing?
Yes, the amendments to the resolution are in writing that were emailed to you earlier today. They're a desk item. They've also were posted on the city's webpage and are available for public review as well. The applicant has agreed to those amendments. We also just now have 2 corrections to the development agreement to delete reference to an exception permit in recital F and G of the development agreement. That was a permit that was originally applied for with the development applications, but the project was modified not to need any of those, the exception, and so it is not, this council is not approving an exception permit tonight. So we would just delete those references from the 2 recitals as part of the development agreement that's for your consideration tonight.
Okay. So the city attorney's provided me with the flow chart for how we will proceed here. So this is the time for the first council questions on the staff report. And I would agree with the Planning Commission regarding the driveway, the one-way ingress from Wolfe Road. I think that's a reasonable request. It allows cars to go straight back to the parking garage in the back of the property. So I would agree with that Planning Commission recommendation as well.
I thought we were doing questions now, and we were going to hear from the public before we
Okay, right.
wait in.
All right, so, right, did not phrase that as a question, but, right. So,
If you want to ask in the form of a question.
questions, okay. Who has questions?
Well, related to that, which resolution captures that, that ingress for the driveway?
It was the ASA right now is to have the driveway, resolution includes for the driveway to be open. The resolution presented to the Planning Commission had a condition to close the driveway, but that's not reflected in the resolutions in front of you.
Which resolution contains the driveway?
It would have been in the ASA resolution.
So just
So
to
is that Exhibit D, the draft
D,
resolution
yes.
for ASA 2017-09?
Yes, 093.
I'm sorry, what?
It would have been in resolution 19-093.
Okay, 19-093, all right, thanks.
So I don't quite understand why do we need to revise these resolutions? So the red line says, given that the project is consistent with the general plan, and then red line added as amended by general plan amendment GPA 2017-05. So
Yeah.
there was an amendment in 2017?
No, this is just to clarify that the project requires a general plan amendment, and so that we're modifying the recitals to say that the project is consistent with the general plan as it will be amended by the general plan amendment that is for your consideration at this time.
We have 0 hotel rooms left in the general plan, right? Which is why we're having to amend the general plan, unless somebody has more. That's the only thing that I know of.
Correct. That's what they're asking for.
Just to increase the hotel room allocation at the site.
Yeah. GPA. But then the GPA that we are approving today would be resolution numbers 19091. So shouldn't the ASA refer to the approved general plan amendment?
It's referring to the application number. So if you look at the general plan amendment, it is to, that reference to the code is to the reference to the actual application number of the general plan amendment.
Put another way, it's what your lawyer recommends to make sure that
Yeah.
we take legal action should we choose to
Okay.
do so.
Because I thought GPA 2017-05 is a temporary name for that amendment, because that's an application for the amendment, we didn't approve it.
Yeah,
So
so
now we are saying
a
it's consistent with something we haven't approved.
That's because the effectiveness of these resolutions will occur after the general plan amendment has been approved. That was the point of the change.
Okay. I mean, because it will occur after the general plan amendment has been approved, shouldn't we refer to the amendment that we actually approve, which will be resolution number 19-091?
You could do it, that's a distinction without a difference in my mind, whether you refer to the application number or the resolution, it's both an accurate reference to the amendment that was made.
Okay, because the public who are reading this ASA might not know what is GPA 2017-05, because if you look at the council document in the CKT records, we see resolution and ordinances. You usually don't see an application number. Maybe, I know they're the same thing.
Well, It's referenced in the resolution itself. So are you looking at the ASA?
Yeah.
It's in the whereas clause. Let's see.
So it's in the resolution
It's
itself.
in the resolution itself, yes.
But whoever in the future reading ASA, they want to find out exactly which general plan amendment this project is compliant with.
Right, and so
they would be getting GPA 2017-05, which could be something that hasn't been approved yet. It's just an application number.
it will be approved tonight if you approve that action.
So shouldn't we just use the resolution number, because that will be something we actually.
I don't object if you want to make that change.
No, let's just
And
keep
that's
it the
more
way you
consistent.
have it, okay? Are there any other questions? Until we move, are we ready to move on to the applicant presentation? Does the applicant have a presentation?
Mayor, the applicant has a presentation.
Great, hopefully very brief. Well, yeah, you have 10 minutes. Hopefully you won't use all 10.
No problem. I'll follow staff's great example in hitting just the high points here. First of all, my name is Michael Straz. I am with Cupertino Village LP and Kimco Realty. We are the developer and the applicant for this great project. Cupertino, let's see, Kimco, we purchased the Cupertino Village Shopping Center in 2005. We've been improving the shopping center over the last, 2014 years. Most recently, we added a 240 parking space garage in the rear of the shopping center, and we added 2 retail shop buildings, which have been great additions to the shopping center. This proposed hotel project is the latest and greatest proposed addition to this shopping center. We made our formal, formal submittal for this project in December of 17. That followed the GPA hearing on August 1st of 2017. So we've been in this process for quite some time and are thrilled to get to this point this evening in front of you all. We were so privileged to receive the green light from the Planning Commission last month. I don't think I need to get into this too much, other than to say that we think there's tremendous demand for hotel rooms in this area. Why don't we just leave it at that in pursuit of brevity. Our site is 1.72 acres. It's perfectly positioned to be a hotel. Hotels like to run in packs. There are 2 other hotels next door. There are great services from the shopping center that we also own, of course, and the proximity to hotel room demand generators, such as a large round building across North Wolfe Road, further make this a wonderful hotel site. People can walk once they get to the hotel, ride bicycles, and go wherever they like from this site. Just some facts. Staff mentioned it's 185 rooms that are proposed, 206 parking stalls, restaurant, ample meeting space, rooftop lounge, screened and gated loading areas that are thoughtfully designed and proposed, and 100% of our North Wolfe Avenue our North Wolfe frontage is activated, which was a goal of ours and staff, and we're thrilled with the result. We have outdoor seating. The market area that staff mentioned spills out into the plaza. It's going to be great. As staff also mentioned, and the council discussed briefly earlier, this project is not looking for any GPA approvals beyond just the hotel room allocation. The setback it conforms the 60 feet from North Wolfe Road. The height conforms under the 60-foot height limit. We will be 5 stories with 4 stories of 4 floors of hotel rooms above the ground floor and 2 levels of underground parking. Few impacts, if any, from this project. The traffic impact is minimal. The accessibility to Apple Park and other destinations nearby it will further reduces any possible or potential traffic impacts. The transient occupancy tax and other tax generation for the city's general fund is fantastic. We think these are conservative numbers, but think that they're certainly achievable at a minimum. No tenants or residents of any kind are displaced. We have a signed lease to move the acclaimed and well-known institution of the Duke of Edinburgh to a space behind us, and are thrilled to keep them in the project. Voluntary community amenities, meeting space, room rates, lower room rates for city dignitaries and guests, shuttle services, internships and local hiring, community amenity funding. The list, we put a lot of thought and a lot of effort into putting together a list that would match our commitment to being responsible citizens and community members in Cupertino. Community outreach, we know, is a hot button of this council. We wanted to let the council know that we reached out to all of the neighbors in every direction. We've met extensively with some of them. We've had many conversations with community members and stakeholders. We've presented to the Chamber Legislative Action Committee multiple times, twice. We hosted a mixer. We've really ramped up our community engagement in the 2 years that we've been in this process. We purposely kept our notice signs up from the 2017 GPA hearing, just so that nobody would be able to miss coming by this very high-profile and visible site, would be able to miss that there is a project proposed. We know trees are another hot button of this council and this community, so we wanted to highlight the efforts that we have made to retain as many of the trees as possible. We're retaining 13 of the evergreen ash trees, including all 8 that greet North Wolfe at the front of our site, between the sidewalk and the street. They are tall and iconic, and we understand the value to the community and are doing everything we can to keep them. 13 of the 16 coast redwoods on the site are also being retained. Our commitment is to try to keep as many of the largest and most visible and important trees on the site as we can. 26 of the 27 of the largest evergreen ash and coastal redwoods are being retained in our design. You see the average height of the trees that are retained, at least of those 26 trees, is nearly 50 feet, and they're very large. There are 41 trees that are being removed. Only 5 of them, according to our arborist, and we've had multiple arborists look at this, only 5 of these trees are characterized as being in good health. The replacement trees are more appropriate species, and where possible, we're also matching the palette from across the street. We are requesting of this council consideration for 2 items. Staff got into this a little bit, but we wanted to hit the high points of this as well. The currently signalized, currently and future signalized intersection across from Apple Park Way, between the proposed hotel and our Retail A building, the Key Point Credit Union. It's currently right in and right out with a no right on red. We are proposing to keep that point of access as a right in only. By getting rid of the right out, we eliminate the possibility of conflicts with Apple Parkway. We certainly respect staff's approach on this, but would respectfully request consideration. The benefits for keeping the right in are for our retail tenants. It's better access. We're in the retail business. Generally, closing access points is not the way to get people into your shopping center in an easy and preferred manner. The customers prefer as many options as possible. possible. If you miss this, if you miss the Mod Pizza entrance and are not offered the opportunity to get in through this right in, you have to go a quarter of a mile around around through Prune Ridge and then right into our driveway in order to get to the center. It's also important to drive the utilization of the parking garage. The right in is the direct way to get to the ramp up to the top of the structure, so we would respectfully request this council's consideration on keeping that open as staff indicated. We also felt we would be remiss without suggesting or requesting consideration from this council as to a equitable treatment with the other hotel or another hotel that is in many ways similar to the project that we're proposing for this council tonight. We were originally in the same GPA hearing and got the same approval on August 1st of 2017. We have proceeded in good faith since then, marching towards this hearing this evening. Another hotel project decided that was approved at the same evening, decided that because of construction costs and other items that they discussed, came back to the GPA on January 15th of this year and volunteered a significantly lower community amenity funding request. We certainly appreciate this council's consideration, but wanted to point out at a minimum that is not that we have a higher number that is part of our proposal, and again we wanted to request that the council consider making our contribution that's memorialized in the draft development agreement more comparable to the most recent comp, if you will. Pretty pictures, but I know in the interest of moving on, we just wanted to thank you. We are here to answer any questions, members of our team as well as myself. Thank you very much.
Okay, now it's time for council to ask questions. We'll start with Council Member Willie.
Let me think for a couple more minutes.
Okay, Council Member Paul.
I'll pass on my questions at this time.
Okay. I don't really have any questions other than I would not be in favor of reducing the amount per room.
I would support opening the right in so that it's easier to access the parking garage. However, I have a question that I brought up yesterday to the staff. I wonder if the staff or the planning commission has checked the general plan consistency of the project in terms of the bike plan implementation. I think general plan policy require implementation of the bike and pedestrian plan, and I just checked the bike plan. They are supposed to have buffered bike paths along Wolfe in this section.
As part of the analysis, we do send this to the Transportation Division to look at it, just to make sure they're consistent with their documents. One of the things, because of Apple's improvements, all the improvements that were needed have been done. That's the direction given to us by the Transportation Division.
It has been done. What does that mean? What has been done?
The improvements in the area that need to be done have been completed per the plan.
For bike path?
I
Bike
believe
plan?
so, yes.
But is Apple going to install buffered bike paths along Wolfe?
I'm not sure what the buffered bike path would be.
Buffered here means there is a painted separation between bike paths and the vehicle lane. That's in our 2016 adopted bike master plan.
I know that portions of Wolfe Road, I know near the new Apple campus already have buffered bike lanes and green lanes. northbound. I'm not for sure on the southbound if it's that way, but northbound up to 280 does have buffered bike lanes.
But southbound doesn't have it
Yeah,
right now, right?
that I'm not sure about.
So could we install that as part of the project?
Well, I mean, it'd be possible. I mean, of course, we'd want it contiguous all the way from at least 280 down.
Yeah, at least
Stevens
maybe
Creek.
from Homestead to the hotel. I don't know, the further south,
Yeah.
or maybe contribution to build this so that we can continue at least to 280.
I know that section of De Anza was overlaid not
Yeah.
that many years ago, and everything was shifted. And I'm almost certain that the buffered bike lanes are there, just because we paved that street.
And now I'm
just
also
within a couple-
curious, there at the Palmer Ridge entrance to Apple campus, how does the Apple employee currently, many of them ride bikes, how do they currently ride into the Apple campus?
On bicycles?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Apple
I'm not
employees who ride bicycles.
Yeah, I assume they come in
Would
through
they
that
need
entrance.
to go down South Wolfe and then turn left to Palmer Ridge? I have no idea.
I see them coming in on Homestead more than anything.
Yeah, so that's usually not.
Yeah, because there's only
something they
just a few
use.
places to
Yeah.
access the campus.
But I suppose there will be people ride south on Wolfe to Stevens Creek, right? There are people commute that way.
I know from our prior discussion about the Hamptons that there's access there. You'd go down the little access road to the Hamptons, and then there's a direct entry gate for bikes and pedestrians at that location. And on the other side, on the, what is it, Tantau? From the east, there's also access.
Yeah, so
But I'm not sure what all this has to do with this hotel.
Right, and cyclists kind of avoid Wolfe like the plague because it's the intersection with 280 is very dangerous for cyclists. They use Tantau and they use Blaney, which have 280 overpasses with no interchange.
Yeah, I understand. So maybe Apple employee wouldn't need to ride along this section of Wolfe. However, we do have a general plan policy which require implementation of bike plans. So now we are saying, oh, this doesn't even make sense, but we do have that in our plan.
There are already bicycle improvements in the project area. So this is looking at the project site. So there are bicycle infrastructure included. It's similar, if not the same, as what is across the street in front of the Apple campus. It's the buffer, the bicycle buffer that you're referring to. This is it. The site for AC2 is accessed over here. The pedestrian access is by the Hamptons, and there's another crosswalk on the other side.
This is a current bike path, but it's not buffered bike path as recommended by the bike plan, right?
Yeah, that's correct. This is not a buffered bike path, but I do recall it being relatively new. In order to accommodate a buffer, we'd have to check to see what available widths are available, because that would take up, say, a couple feet, and all these lanes would have to be shifted, and we'd have to make sure we have minimum width. So we'd really have to check out the geometry to see if that's possible.
Mm-hmm. So my point is really, we didn't check the consistency with our own general plan policy when approving this project. I
would say that
going forward, let's do that.
The city implements its bike plan in a number of ways, and it doesn't necessarily require the city to condition development approvals on the property owner providing the upgrades that the bike plan is anticipating.
Not necessarily, but there is a general plan policy. When I was reviewing the Valpo SB 35 consistency analysis table, I discovered there is one. And the attorney reviewing that specifically said,
well, can we
this
not
is the objective
disclose
standard. Sorry.
confidential information
Sorry.
as part of this discussion?
So I think we do have that in our general plan. Then we should enforce that for every project so that slowly every section of the bike path would be implemented as we build, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying it's not necessarily inconsistent with that policy, because the city can implement that policy in a number of ways.
So you are just saying that policy is not objective standard, that will be a...
I haven't actually even seen the policy that you're referring to, so I think we need, I was trying to find it and look it up, and maybe we can see how what the general plan says about the implementing of that policy.
It just says implement bike and pedestrian master plan.
Right. And there's a number of, and the city is in the process of doing that through a number of initiatives.
So if, basically, I think we also need to be cognizant. If a policy can be interpreted as optional, that means we need to reword the policy so that it's an objective standard that we can enforce. If it's not an objective standard we can enforce, it's as if the policy doesn't even exist. So, yeah, I think for this project, it's too late, but I hope for future projects, we check the consistency with all the general plan policies.
It's not late or not too late. It's not relevant.
It's relevant. It needs to be consistent with the general plan, and we do have policy in the general plan to implement bike master plan.
Right, but the project on its own, there's nothing that it does that would violate that.
No, it's not violent. It's as if a residence renovate, let's say R1 zoning, they would be required to install sidewalk if there is no sidewalk now, because the city has required sidewalk, and they even would be required to install light poles if it's not there right now. So it's similar to that. When you develop a commercial zone, they should improve that site to the general plan standard we specify. That's what I'm trying to get at. We are asking a residential property owner to improve. When they renovate the house, they need to improve our sidewalk, they need to improve our light pole if it's not there. So similarly, if we have general plan that says we want to have this bike path standard, every project we develop that, we should try to improve that. I think also policy sewage system also. Other cities have that. If you develop a site, they should be responsible for replacing the pipes underneath, so that slowly we would install new pipes. Yeah.
Okay. Any other council members have questions of the applicant?
So they're not necessarily questions. Are we at a point where we're now going to discuss what our views are on this, as opposed to what you
No,
phrased?
first we're going to have the public comment.
Okay, good.
Anything, Darcy? Rod?
No, but I am looking at our 2016 bike plan. I mean, the deal, of course, is we want things that are compatible with our general plan. I agree with you there, but in this case, what we've done with the bike plan in 2016 is mapped out a whole grid of improvements that was done in a comprehensive way. We don't do it piecemeal when we're approving development projects. And yeah, one of the things we could negotiate if we wanted, right, would be, you know, we want improvement X, improvement Y, improvement Z under the development agreement. Well, we did that. We are, there's a transportation impact fee, I think that's part of this deal.
That's just what I was
right?
going to mention. Yes.
There's the Transportation Management Association participation that we also negotiated. There is there is the idea that we would get $10,000 per room as a contribution to the city. Think of all the things we could do with $1.8 million. We've talked about the importance of more park space. We've talked about the importance of a library addition. We've talked about City Hall. We've talked about all these things. So, you know, this deal actually has a fair amount that really reads directly on transportation improvements that we thought were suitable given the site and given the bike plan, which does not call out a protected bikeway at this location. It is the bikeway that you saw in that picture, if you look at the 2016 bike plan. So.
All right, great. So now I have public comment. I have 4 cards. First is Jennifer Griffin, followed by Rhoda Fry, followed by Barry Chang, followed by Anjali Kauser. Welcome, Jennifer.
Good evening, City Council. I think this is a very, very good plan for the hotel. My main goal here is to make sure that that stand of trees in front of that property is protected and retained, and we have the full public right-of-way. If we're going to do anything more with the bike lane, we cannot give up any of the public right-of-way. That is not any place I want to go. If you are going to be doing anything more with the bike lane, it has to be out in the road. We cannot take land from the sidewalk and the public right-of-way to put in, to give it any more to the bike lane. The public right-of-way is for the trees and the sidewalk. Anything else, I'll go out on a limb here, but anything else has to be done in the road. The bike lane has to be done in the road. We had that problem at Tantau when we thought they were finished with Main Street, and then Apple came blasting in and did their complete streets there and wiped out the outer row of ash trees. The city had to put them back in. This is at Tantau and Stevens Creek. The neighbors did not want those trees removed. I'm still upset about it, but that is not how we do bike lanes. You don't wipe out 1 or 2 rows of trees. That they have to coexist. So therefore, the road has to be the one that gives. And I'm willing to drive on one less lane on Wolfe if you protect my trees. Then again, this hotel area is as good as it gets in Cupertino. You do not have any better area for a hotel than this close to Apple. I am pleased that it is only 5 stories, that we have as many of the ash trees in the front protected. That is one of my favorite areas of the trees. I've been looking at it for years, and the trees need to be protected. This is as good as it gets. This is Cupertino at its best. And I'm very pleased with how the city and the staff and Kimco have handled Eric have handled the rollout of this hotel. It's an asset. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm glad that they're protecting the Duke and the redwood tree on the property. But yes, if we're going to do the bike lanes there, they have to go in the road where bikes go, but not in the public right-of-way where trees and sidewalks go.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Quickly clarify, because Roger addressed that, even if we add a buffer there, we will be shifting vehicle lanes. So we won't be take out trees. And I really love the plan because you guys preserved all those trees along Wolfe. Thank you.
Okay, Rhoda Fry, followed by Barry Chang, followed by Anjali Kauser and Rick Kitson. Welcome, Rhoda.
Hi, I'm representing my opinions only. I'm excited about Kimco investing in Cupertino. They're a sustainably minded company. In fact, they built a LEED Platinum hotel in California. So I have a general comment. In the future, I've been seeing these projects come by. I'd like to see the plans show more buildings within their context. I did not see an image of the hotel with respect to the apartment building next door. The other thing is, for the record, the hotel is almost 73 feet in total height because there's mechanical on top and whatnot. And I'd like to get you to consider making some friendly modifications to the agreement. Kitty Moore had mentioned in her commentary in the MND that there's a nearby preschool. So for those sensitive receptors and local residents and our storm drains, Roger's favorite, I'd like to see the requirement for covering all trucks with tarps. And to prohibit untarped trucks that are transporting any materials. Furthermore, this project requires LEED silver, which is really rather unimpressive. Frankly, you're pretty much there. Given the California current codes, you pretty much get LEED silver for free. So by the time that this building has been built, it will be obsolete when it comes to green building. So I know this project is fairly far along, and these are some pie-in-the-sky ideas, but I want to put them forth so that maybe the council can consider these for the future. I'd like to see 5 reach items with incentives. 1 is eliminate gas, 2 is LEED gold. By the way, the Hyatt House in Cupertino, I believe, reached LEED gold. They were really close. They had LEEDs. They were really high on the silver, and I think maybe you guys can correct that, they achieved gold. LEED platinum, which would be my favorite. Zero net energy and passive house standard. By the way, in New York City, there's a Columbia University dormitory that is 26 stories, and it is both zero net energy and meets passive house standard, which is very high, high for and energy efficiency. And if the applicant were able to achieve these things, then perhaps that we would give them another year to pay that $1.85 million. So they would have more money up front to invest in these things in their building. And I realize that it might not be realistic for the applicant, but I really did want to put these things forward so y'all can think about it for upcoming projects, and hopefully this one as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Rhoda. Now we have Barry Chang, followed by Anjali Kausner and Rick Kitson, followed by Eric Brewer. Welcome, Barry.
Honorable Mayor and the council member, my name is Barry Chen. I'm the Cupertino resident for many, many years. This is a good project. It will generate good income for the city. After I stepped down last year from the council, when I term out, I travel around, look around the surrounding city, building a lot of hotel. This is a good revenue generation for our city. So I'm not going to use up all 3 minutes. I think you should approve it. Not because I approved it last time, you should approve it this time. But this is really a good project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, former Mayor Chang. Thank you for being brief. Next, we have Anjali Kausner and Rick Kitson, followed by Eric Brewer, followed by Peggy Griffin. Welcome, Anjali and Rick.
Good evening again, Mayor and City Council members. I just wanted to kind of go over a few points that have been already spoken, but with the continued support strong growth of Apple, this project would meet the local demands of hotel rooms. And it's right across from Apple Park, which will hopefully make it easier for, it'll ideally reduce the car traffic on city streets. It's going to bring us more TOT, which is a major revenue for Cupertino, and having a hotel in Cupertino, we're going to be able to capture those dollars instead of them going outside to Sunnyvale, San Jose, or Santa Clara. In addition, it's going to be a full-service hotel, and it has a nice addition of having a first rooftop bar. And this project is physically compliant with the general plan and the building codes. Thus, the Cupertino Chamber of Commerce supports the recommendation that the Planning Commission and encourages the City Council to support the project of the new hotel room allocations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Eric Brewer, followed by Peggy Griffin, followed by Hung Wei. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you. So trying to get through this quickly. So the GPA, or General Plan Amendment, as I understand it, just covers the hotel rooms. There's roughly an extra 180 seats for a restaurant and bar that I don't think are covered in the GPA, so I think that may be an oversight. There's With regard to the access, I would be in favor of actually just closing that. That way it's kind of bike and pedestrian friendly. Some of the other developments in Cupertino, Main Street comes to mind. This was brought up in the Planning Commission meeting, that various developers had agreed to certain aspects as part of getting the development done, and then later in the project it didn't happen, or it got changed radically, such that, for example, Main Street was only supposed to have 40% of restaurant. Now it's over 60%, and likewise in the village they're at 25%, and so adding the 180 seats is going to, I think, require a GPA as well. And then finally, there's the parking structure. The second floor of that, or top floor of that, seems to be very much underutilized. And it's my understanding that the original development of it was going to have an elevator to make it easy for people doing retail shopping to get in and out from that second layer. And so I think maybe somebody needs to rethink that a little bit as well. But I do think the hotel is something that's going to be a good addition to that area. And so I look forward to it coming. Thank you.
Great. So can someone comment regarding the restaurant and I don't think a GPA is needed for a restaurant.
No. The parking analysis that's done for the project looks at a full service hotel, so a hotel with a restaurant, with a bar, conference rooms, and all that. So the parking analysis came in and required about 141 parking spaces for the hotel only. The applicant is proposing 206 parking spaces on their site, so there really isn't a parking issue.
Okay, and the resident also brought up something, and I'm glad he did. How do we prevent a repeat of what happened at Main Street in terms of the project that's delivered not being what was promised?
Well, we're pretty, when the project comes through and it goes through council, we're very strict on what is required. And there is some staff level minor tweaks in there. Things do change between planning, entitlement, and building phase. It's essentially a 5-10% drawing. But major changes would come back to some sort of review process to ensure that they are consistent with the original approvals. That's the ideal, that is the process.
Okay.
Keep in mind that every amendment of Main Street was approved by the previous council.
Right, I know.
So to avoid that, we need to elect council members who keep the developers accountable.
The speaker also
you.
mentioned an issue with elevator accessibility from the second floor of the garage. Can you elaborate on that? With that?
Yeah. So, well, for accessibility, I'm not a building official, but from my conversation with the building department, accessibility is always looked at on a tenant basis. So when a tenant comes in, they look to make sure that there's enough parking space available to them. And it has to be provided through an accessible path of travel. So if a tenant comes in, they'll need to provide ADA accessible parking spaces based off the use and the occupancy of that use. So the elevator might be more of a amenity as opposed to a requirement, because you could put the required ADA spaces in front of buildings and make the people that are able to walk to the particular uses.
And so have those accessibility issues been addressed?
As far as I know, there are no accessibility issues on site that I'm aware of, but I can confirm that with our building division.
Okay, and so is the comment more geared towards people parking for retail purposes and then potentially going out to the shopping center? Or is it within the hotel itself?
I think it's for the shopping center itself. The hotel will be essentially parked to meet its own demand, and the Cupertino Village Shopping Center is parked to meet its own demand as well.
Okay, but there won't be prohibitions for people going back and forth?
No, there's not. They're under the shared parking agreement, same property owner, so there's really no issue with people going back and forth.
Okay.
Okay, next I have Peggy Griffin, followed by Hung Wei. Welcome, Peggy.
Mayor Scharf, council members and staff, this project is refreshing. I want to encourage you to approve it because it follows basically the general plan other than the hotel allocation, which was short. And also, in the future, Rhoda's idea is to encourage higher levels of LEED I think should be considered. And the last thing is, you said, how do you avoid doing Main Street again, the mistakes? One is not to approve the changes. The other thing is, in the resolutions that were passed, a lot of places said prior to the issuance of building permits. And I've looked and I've seen things where the permits were issued and you lose your leverage. So I want to encourage the council and the staff to stick to your guns. You lose your leverage when you go ahead and do it anyway or issue an acceptance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Last, we have Hung Wei. Welcome, Hung Wei.
Thank you, Mayor, Sheriff, and council members. I'm Hung Wei, resident of Cupertino, and I'm here because one of the benefits caught my eye is internship and local hiring. As a retirable member from the Fremont Union High School District, and I think a lot of people don't know that one of the benefits that the Fremont Union High School District offers our students who are mentally challenged is to educate them until 22, and we give them working skill training, and we collaborate with YMCA and local companies to provide them internship opportunities. So I'm hoping that this will be, any future development, something like this could be a collaboration between the city, our high school district, and local companies such as a hotel that could provide internship for our students and also for students from Foothill De Anza College. So this is, I wasn't going to speak, but this item caught my eye, and I believe that for any future developments, our city need to encourage our investors, people who are investing in our community, to work with our high school district and our local community colleges to really provide internship for our youth and also local hiring. Thank you.
Okay, that's all the speaker cards. Would the applicant like to respond to any of the public comments? And specifically, I'm interested in the one about LEED certification, if we could go higher than silver.
Thank you, Mayor. We think that we put together a great project that achieves great sustainability and is environmentally responsible. We meet all the Cal Green standards. Our focus is on trying to put together the best, most comfortable hotel that will generate great TOT tax dollars at as reasonable a cost as we can achieve in this very, very challenging market. While we certainly respect other projects that are able to aspire to some of these other milestones, that's just not part of the project that we're able to present this evening. But I'm certainly open to other questions if any come up. Thank you.
There was one easy thing here too. The tarp trucks to avoid debris and dirt. I mean, would you be able to do that? That shouldn't.
Is that meant during construction or what?
Right, during construction, of course. Right.
Well, there are already a number of conditions of approval that address the trucking. I mean, that would be we're happy to work with staff to come up with the details of our program. When it's appropriate. I'm reluctant to volunteer something that I don't truly understand at this time.
Right. I mean, I think we could also pass our own city ordinance. I'm pretty sure Santa Clara has a requirement that all trucks be tarped. I'm not sure that we have that here. Yeah, that could be separate from this project, though. Okay, so bring it back to council if there's any more questions.
I did have a question for the applicant.
Oh, okay, sure.
I'm sorry.
Just about the tarps. We do have a mitigation measure, AQ1. That there's a requirement to cover all trucks hauling soil, sand, and other loose materials, or require all trucks to maintain at least 2 feet of freeboard, i.e. the minimum required space between the top of the load and the top of the trailer. So we have that built in.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Get rid of the freeboard.
So my question to you is this, and it also builds on Rhoda's comments. At Silicon Valley Clean Energy, we're looking at a program that's substantially funded. We have $5 million a year, of which a considerable amount's going to go toward looking at eliminating gas in new development. The benefit is you'd have less upfront cost. There may be the operating cost is not so very clear, but would you be willing to look at a program if at basically SVCE's expense we help you study whether eliminating gas from this project would be of interest to you?
Thank you, Councilmember. Of course, great respect for the organization and for your work. We could always look at something like that, but our inclination will be to follow the lead of the best practices of the hotel industry and with the ultimate operator of our hotel, and it would really be their decision as to whether to pursue that. I certainly don't want to foreclose that, but where our focus is on the experience of the end user.
No, so I appreciate that. I'll just mention that it's fairly conventional and easy to do in the rooms. The kitchen, right? Some chefs demand gas, but in some of the best restaurants in California now, gas is being eliminated because it creates a lot of heat in the kitchen. A lot of it's wasted, so it fatigues the workers. And at the French Laundry, for example, in Napa, they use induction cooking to eliminate the bulk of the heat, and they get a reproducible dish every time. So leading restaurants are thinking about doing it. And if you're open to the idea, I'd hook you up with some folks at SVCE that might explore whether this would be a benefit to you. I'm not looking to get in your way on this project.
So I'm willing to do a fact-finding trip to the French Laundry.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm going to stay away from that one. Thank you, Councilmember Sinks. I mean, we would be certainly reluctant to foreclose the possibility. We know that the restaurant is part of the hotel. We would want to respect that, but we're always happy to talk to anybody about anything that this council suggests.
I appreciate your willingness. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So as I understand, Sunnyvale already adopted an ordinance to not use any gas for new buildings. I don't know if that included restaurants also. Yeah.
Right. So I think the best we can do tonight is exact the idea that he'd be willing to consider that if we can help him.
So the gold is not possible.
It's not part of the project that we've proposed, and we feel great about the environmental sustainability of this project. Our concern would be that it's just we're too far along in the process, and are just reluctant to make that sort of commitment tonight at the 11th hour. But we appreciate it coming up. We appreciate the community members' suggestion.
So I want to understand parking more, because someone is concerned that parking might overflow to the shopping area. So the restaurants, how many seats are in the restaurant and bar?
I don't recall offhand. I don't know if staff has that handy. I know that somebody mentioned earlier 180. I can't recall whether that's the correct amount or not. Hold on, it looks like staff is checking the plans.
While they're checking, how do you anticipate, since a lot of the guests may be visiting Apple Park, they may not even come in cars. I mean, do you have any prediction for number of cars per hotel room that you're going to end up with?
Well, the city, PlaceWorks, the city's consultant, did do a traffic study that did include parking as part of the environmental documentation for this project. They might be more able to comment on that specifically. I would say that we exceeded purposefully the parking requirement from that came out of that, and we also exceed all parking ratios and requirements at the Cupertino Village Shopping Center. We do get a lot of people who come to our wonderful restaurants and retailers, and we think that by overparking the hotel will add more buffer, particularly during peak time. So we feel great about the available parking, and if anything, we think that we're providing plenty of extra stalls. But we certainly, respect the concern and are happy to address any questions that come out of it.
So according to the staff report, the parking study says 141 spaces required.
Right.
And you are providing 206
Yes.
Parking spots. So I'm wondering how many seats the restaurant seats, because if the restaurant were full, I don't know, I'm just wondering.
Well, total, it looks like around 173 with the restaurant, the bar on top as well. One thing to note, though, when the parking analysis is performed, they look at comparable hotels, so hotels that have similar amenities. So they'll look for hotels that have restaurants and bars. And so that's where the parking analysis, that number is coming from, and kind of incorporating that thought process into it.
Okay. And then how many employees you expect will be on site?
That's really a question for the ultimate operator. I recall that we were looking at somewhere in the 40 to 50 plus sort of range at the peak times. During the overnight hours or some of the times where there are lighter shifts, that number would probably be less. But I don't have a specific figure to quote for you, Vice Mayor.
Did the parking study include the on-site employees?
It did. I mean, by focusing on the comparable hotels in the area, it looked at the actual parking utilization. It's my understanding.
Because there are 206 parking spaces if you have 40 employees.
Well, not all of them, right? Well, not all of them will drive single occupancy vehicles that will park at the site. There's a bus service that drops off right here. The bicycles we have a preference and a program that's included as a requirement in the development agreement for local hiring that should further hopefully mitigate some of the demand. And all we can do is look at what comparable hotels need and their parking utilization, and that's what the city's done. So we think there's plenty of parking, and I don't recall the ultimate number, but please keep in mind that because there's common ownership, there are, I think it's 840 parking stalls as part of the shopping center. So the combined parking capacity of this of the shopping center with the hotel in it will be a very significant number, and the complementarity of the uses will further make parking available. So I'm trying to answer your question, but it's all we can do is park it based on the requirements and the evidence as to what the demand will ultimately be.
So, but I think it does sound like there might be overflow to the shopping malls because of the restaurant.
Or the shopping mall could be overflow to the to the hotel. It should be fairly seamless.
Would you be charging for parking for the hotel guests?
Well, that's something we'll have to work out with the operator. It's certainly possible, but another reason why we would welcome shoppers to the shopping center to consider parking there.
Right.
At peak times. Valet service is possible at peak times during events and the like. All that remains to be worked out.
Okay. So regarding internship and local hires, thank you for providing that. So how do you, I don't know, how is that local hire will be implemented? How?
Well, I mean, the general outlines of the concept are included in the development agreement, and then we need to work out with staff the details is over the next 2 years or so. Remember, this hotel is not likely, or would start construction at the end of 2020 or the beginning of 2021, should we be fortunate enough to get the green light from this council. And then it would open in 2023, most likely. So there's a lot of time to work out the details. The development agreement, the way it's written, also holds our feet to the fire if that is a concern of this council. We have to work together with staff to come up with the details of the hiring program that satisfy the commitments that we're making in this development agreement.
Sorry, I haven't looked at the development agreement on this. So what was the commitment in the development agreement regarding the local hire program? Is that to be worked out later? And also what's considered local? Because the hotel sits at the border with Sunnyvale and
well, I think the intent
is within a certain mile.
All that remains, Vice Mayor. You're right. I mean, a lot of the details still remain to be worked out. We're open to input as to what this council may think local means. Our commitment is to certainly for the citizens of Cupertino, but we would certainly welcome local employees that can come from Sunnyvale too.
Right now, that's not part of the agreement.
Well, it is required in the development agreement because it was on the list of voluntary community benefits.
So maybe the city can work out a certain local hire program that we can apply to this development and other.
Correct. So we do under the preferential hiring portion is the developer shall establish a program giving preference to Cupertino residents for employment in all in the project in all positions during initial staffing and an ongoing basis as openings occur. So it's specifically Cupertino residents in the development agreement.
But then it does sit at the border of Sunnyvale, so I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we need to move on here. This is too many theoretical
Can I
things.
just ask staff, I'm almost ready to make a motion. I just appreciate staff helping us with this idea of traffic flow and what we should do with the current thing, which is an entrance exit, right? And what where you finally come down on all this. Maybe there's a map and you can talk us through how people get to this place. If we do what the applicant wants, if we do what the planning commission wants, could you just help us think through that?
What the applicant and planning commission wants the same thing. It's what the staff wants was different.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. So during the presentation, what we did was just letting you know the thought process and the process in which we landed on today, which is a planning commission is in alignment with the applicant's proposal, which is
to make it a two-way or
make it a one-way.
One-way in only.
Correct.
I see. And your recommendation had been to close it completely?
The original staff recommendation to the planning commission was to close it. Correct.
All right. And now where are you?
Now the recommendation
yes
is to leave it one way. Same from the planning commission recommendation, which is same as the applicant.
From where it is today, which is two-way, you want to
correct.
Make it one way.
That's
in
correct.
Only.
That's correct.
It's like the Roach Motel.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's a terrible analogy.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that. But it is 11:15. We're scheduled to go to after 2. It looks like, and so a little levity is called for.
Okay, John, Councilman Willie had some questions. He didn't go yet, so go.
So if we could. I'll first start with, I'll say, what do the residents expect of us up here? And so my criteria, number one, does the project meet the general plan? And so it's nice to say that it does meet the general plan other than the needing the hotel room allocation. Number two, the impacts that are going to be seen by our community, that it's a hotel that's going to be primarily serving the Apple Spaceship campus, so it's right across the street. So it's not going to be a huge impact on the rest of Cupertino roads. It's also close to the 280 on-ramp, off-ramp, so that helps in that regard. Next one then is resident support. And with that then, outreach. And so if staff can put up the one slide that deals with outreach. And to me, so this is pretty important. And so when I see the amount of outreach, I'm disappointed. If we sit here and look at this, legal notice, legal ad placed in newspaper 10 days prior to a hearing, 55 public hearing notices mailed to property owners, 55. 300 feet. 10 days prior to hearing. This is really my message to city staff to be more respectful of residents and making sure the community is truly aware of what's going on. Now, if we can go to the applicant had a top view that showed the surrounding area. So the applicant had a top view that showed the surrounding adjacent properties. So, no, it was actually the one that actually showed a much better view of those surrounding properties, and it actually had the names of the apartment complexes. There we go, okay. So, the hotel's going to go in and look at the neighbors that are around it. We said that 55 notices got mailed out, and yet there are hundreds of families. Hundreds of families. Now, the applicant, when I talked to him, said that he did reach out to the owners of those apartment complexes, and I believe he said they didn't get back to him. But I think we need to be more respectful of the families and the residents that are going to be impacted. I did talk to the applicant about, hey, gee whiz, you know, while it's coming for approval tonight, in my view, it's never too late. I don't want to speak for him, but maybe the applicant can just say a couple words about what you told me, that you'd be willing to continue to let residents of those things. I'll let you speak.
I thank you, Councilmember Willie. I would just say that we're certainly willing to and look forward to pursuing additional outreach for the foreseeable future. Certainly, we understand that there may be questions among these local residents as this project progresses, especially as we go through construction. We want to keep an open dialogue and are happy to keep them up to date as to our progress and make ourselves available.
Yeah. One of the ways I worded it to characterize it, this community in this small area of the city has been, you know, experiencing a huge amount of construction over the last quite a few years, and now there's going to be more, and they haven't really been notified what's going to be going on. And when we consider the significance, there's going to be 2 underground floors of parking. All that dirt is going to be removed by trucks. And it's right next to where they call home. And so with that, in the future, I sure hope city staff will step up and look and really look at the people that will be affected by it and make sure that they get brought into it. So I could go on, but I won't on that. But now if we could go back to the top view of the hotel that kind of shows that one-way street, because I think there's a good point here that hasn't been well conveyed to the people. So there's a top view. Yeah, there you go. But there's one that kind of shows a higher view of this. And no, with the shopping center, because it's got the parking garage where that traffic is going to be going. And to me, it's an important point that I think no, it's the top view showing the parking garage of the shopping center.
You're thinking about Kimco's presentation,
Correct.
slide 10.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, so if you can bring up Kimco's presentation. It's slide number 10 on that.
Great. Close enough. They've made it so that it's a one-way, and they've made it curved to help convey that it's one way and that you couldn't do a left turn from Wolfe. But what I'm trying to get at here is they've put in this nice parking garage at the back, and this is the entrance to the parking garage. If you close this off, then you really hinder the use of that garage. That is, according to the applicant, that is the entrance and that is the exit. And with that being said, I think we really need to appreciate the reason that if we were to close that off, to get to that parking garage, you'd have to come all the way around and be going in there, and it would be, I believe, a lot less utilized. Okay, just kind of a point of clarification. But then the next point, which dealing with residents and things, there's going to be more traffic on this path here, and these apartment buildings have gates that allow them to get to the shopping center. And those are going to be families, they're going to be kids, they go back and forth, and yet now there's more traffic. So I think we do need to be aware of the safety issues. The applicant said that he's got it planned for speed bump type. And again, I wouldn't want to speak. I'll let you word it the way you had, and then the addition of another one back toward the apartment neighbors.
As part of our application, there are raised crosswalks at the sidewalk. Think of a speed bump with a crosswalk on it, so that a pedestrian does not have to step down into a driveway level. It slows traffic. We've got, I think, 2 of our 3 significant connections are raised, and we're certainly cognizant. We want people to continue to be able to walk around the shopping center in a safe manner, and we think that it is, but we're of course always open to further discussion with staff on it.
So those important points, a few more. The project seems to have really good setbacks, especially on the Wolfe Road side. The applicant did do outreach to Apple and got their input and made some adjustments. The upper floors, the windows that face Apple, are going to be a clouded type to prevent direct photographing and things of that nature at Apple, which, at least for that neighbor. A good point a point that I feel is really good is that the owner really seems to be doing a good job at managing the shopping center there, that I believe is a very important part of our community in that area. And to me, that speaks well that we can really count on the owner to continue with that sensitive and high quality respect for the area. Concerns, a couple additional ones. Removing of the 41 trees. We heard a couple residents speak about trees, and I know there's a lot more of them, a lot more residents that are concerned about trees. And so I'd really like staff to always be encouraging to keeping the full growth trees as much as possible. I can understand the reason for needing to take out so many around this particular hotel. It has to do with the traffic flow that they want to get in and get out of the hotel. The replacement trees, great, it sounds good. The 3-foot box trees I have a tough time getting too excited about a 3-foot box tree. I'd really like to see those things be much more grown. We're taking out big trees. We should do everything we can to get as sizable trees as possible. And by that, we heard one resident speak about all the trees that disappeared for Main Street. And here we are years later and drive down Stevens Creek and look at the north side and look at the south side. It takes years and years. So anything we can do to encourage getting replacement trees that are going to be as big as possible, rather than just following a municipal code and saying 3-foot tree, check box and press on. Overall, good project for the city. Somewhere between $1.1 and $1.8 million a year of the TOT tax. Really will help our number one business in the area right there. So I think I support this pretty well. I sure hope we do more for the resident engagement and notification on future projects. Thank you.
Yeah, Rod, did you want to bring the motion?
Happy to. Yeah.
Great.
Wait.
No.
Can I propose something? So I think Rhoda suggested that maybe certain delay on the community benefit payment, and the developer request to a fair treatment with the same treatment as the other hotel. I'm wondering how about requiring net zero energy and LEED platinum? If they can achieve that, we allow certain reduction in the community benefit. What do my council members think?
Well, I think I'd ask the
Yeah.
applicant,
So
who's
right.
already made several statements about that. Is there any negotiation?
Right, they've already said they do not want to try to achieve a higher LEED level.
If they get it, they get that reduction. If they don't achieve that, they don't get that reduction. So it's their option. They can decide later. They don't have to decide today. That's.
I don't know, the amount is not that much, it wouldn't pay the difference in
I don't know how
achieving.
much would be the difference. Maybe Rod has more idea.
Well, I'm with John. I appreciated what John had to say. And wait a minute, would you like to respond to this idea that we're posing to you?
We're all for flexibility, but the costs to achieve it are just dwarf it. So we're comfortable with the development agreement as is currently drafted. Thank you.
But it would lower your long-term energy costs. But is that
At some
not,
point, it costs
maybe
a lot
because
to re-engineer the whole thing, right?
maybe whoever's operating the hotel, that would be their
If
savings,
it's our
not
option,
yours.
we're happy to add it to the development agreement, but it's just unlikely. So it feels like we're wasting this council's time.
All right, thank you.
Well, and
Appreciate
moreover,
that.
it's staff time and everything. So
Right,
I'm going to make a motion that we conduct the public hearing as we have and adopt resolution number 19-090, approving the mitigated negative declaration, and 2, adopt resolution number 19-091, approving the general plan amendment, and 3, adopt resolution number 19-092, approving the development permit, and 4, adopt resolution number 19-093, approving the architectural and site application, and 5, adopt resolution number 19-094, approving the tree removal permit, and 6, adopt resolution number 19-095, approving the use permit, and 7, conduct the first reading of ordinance number 19-2186, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cupertino approving a development agreement for the development of a new 5-story, 185-room hotel with associated site and landscaping improvements located at 10801 and 10805 North Wolfe Road.
I'll second.
Wait. This is staff recommendation, so it's closing, or this will be allowing
This
the
is planning
writing?
commission's recommendation, so it has the driveway open.
Oh, so this is the planning commission. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you get to drive in.
I
if
would
you're
break that
going
into
south.
two motions, so that your resolutions and your ordinance are in different motions. So that the first 6 were, under one motion, and then the first reading of ordinance 19-2186.
That may be a good idea.
Yeah. And then
Do you have anything to say about that?
one point of clarification, and I think for the future readability and accessibility by the public of our materials, is I think when we have these draft recommendations and resolutions, to Vice Mayor Chow's earlier point, it is very confusing trying to match up the resolution number with the application number when virtually up to the point of the resolution itself, you're using the application number the entire time. And only when you make the motion for the resolution do you then have the application number omitted, and there's no reference to that when you make the resolution. And so I would just ask that in the future, when we have something like adopt resolution number 19-090, we put in a parenthetical after that the associated application number. So in this case, it would be application number EA-2017-06, so that the public has the ability to reference that easily. Because otherwise, we're basically untethered to
The
anything
public
that we-
and us.
Right, and us. And I will just note that I had written out a motion to that effect. We actually didn't have the same order of all the resolutions as we did all the application numbers in our materials, and presumably the website. There was the tree removal permit and the use permit were switched around vis-a-vis each other. So
Well,
Okay, so Rod, you want to modify?
All I'm looking for is for our city attorney to just clarify, what's responsible here in terms of approving
right.
in implementing the intention of my motions.
The other thing, I want to add is that you should probably have added to 3, 4, 5, and 6 the words "as amended," because of the items that we received over email from the city attorney earlier today. And so I would just, from a clerical perspective, and I can email this out, to yourself and the city clerk, just to add the phrase "with amendments to resolutions 3 through 6 in your items as described in DIAS materials to be made available on the city's website as DIAS materials from staff." So
Yeah, so let's just let the city attorney guide us on what we're doing here.
I agree with the friendly amendment to the motion, as well as the addition of saying to approve an ordinance approving a development agreement as amended, as stated by the city attorney during the hearing, because we had 2 corrections to the DA as well.
So are you saying we should separate the
You want two
resolution
motions?
adoption with the ordinance?
No, I think those should go together in one motion, because
Okay.
you're assuming you want to approve the development agreement.
So what I should add to the motion, I think what you said is, as Darcy said, the
I described
amendments
them,
that
yeah.
have been made
Sorry.
through at the suggestion of the city attorney that have been agreed to by the applicant as well, that are on the dais this evening.
Right. I just describe them as DIAS materials, and
DIAS
so I think that captures what
Okay.
we're trying to say, both
And
for those
then-
2 items and the email.
And then I guess I need to also add this. I move that ordinance number 19-2186 be read by title only, and that the city clerk's reading constitute the first reading thereof. Assuming the city clerk has to say something at this point, I don't know.
Sure. This is the first reading of ordinance number 19-2186, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cupertino approving a development agreement for the development of a new 5-story, 185-room hotel with associated site and landscaping improvements located at 10801 and 10805 North Wolfe Road, APN 316-45017 and 316-0556.
Well, you read some extra numbers, so I wasn't sure what the protocol is, but I think,
Well,
this would constitute
Whatever's
my
in the
motion.
title, yes.
If our city attorney is satisfied.
Well, could you break those out into two motions, though, with regard to the resolutions and the ordinance? So you've got 6 resolutions and then an ordinance.
Well, she said
The
make
city
one
attorney
motion.
just said, don't do that.
Oh, don't do that? Don't
Right.
break it into 2?
I'm assuming that your approval of the, well, you could do it either way.
Yes,
Oh,
I would
fine.
like, I
No,
would
do-
like
do
the,
whatever
I
you
would
like.
like the one contingent on the other. That is, I appreciate the DA. For those of you who are interested, it's contained at the back of Appendix G, and I would like that to be included as part of this.
Okay. I'll second.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Motion carries unanimously.
Wonderful. Okay, it is 11:37. We are an hour behind schedule.
Uh-oh.
Which
That mean we're going till 3?
I guess is pretty good. I can go straight to San Francisco from here without going home first tomorrow. So, does anyone need a break? Okay, 5-minute break. Let's reconvene at 11:43.